Bora Bora. The mood is buoyant. The expedition is fulfilling all its promises. The fervor for diving is proving contagious.
Well, are we going to dive or not? Are we going to dive?
But when this involves deep exploration, diving where nobody ever goes, they can expect to experience moments that no one else has ever experienced.
Today, Julien is due to bring in the sensors we left in a column of water here at 120 meters, then at 90 meters, and so on. And that's the end of our mission for this dive. And now we've got around 2.5 hours of decompression left.
Ghislain and Julien start to swim up slowly, respecting the decompression stops.
When we get to 80 meters, I see Julien stop, intrigued by the behavior of a grey shark. The closer I come, the more this shark's attitude catches my attention. We know sharks can swim to intimidate, but I've never seen a shark behave like this. It was an extremely slow, jerky way of swimming, swinging 90 degrees to the left, 90 degrees to the right, not like anything I'd ever seen before.
The shark moves away, then turns around, passes in front of Ghislain, and swims towards Julien.
I'm in open water. There's still this shark swimming against the current. He's coming in my direction, and he leaves the wall at that moment. So we meet in open water. At that point, I'm thinking, wow, this is great, this is really incredible. It's really quite rare to find yourself in such a setting with these creatures so close.
At a depth of 80 meters, in this magnificent blue, I witnessed an almost unthinkable scene. I don't know exactly what happened. I dropped my camera. I saw Julien. He'd lost his mask.
I didn't know the extent of the damage. I just knew it had bitten me. And I thought, okay, I have to react quickly. He'd bitten through my strap, so I've got no mask. I can feel that the water is going straight into my loop. It's much harder to breathe. I put myself in front of his face and give a big OK sign.
We were facing an extremely grave situation, since it looked as though he'd lost his rebreather.
I absolutely had to stay calm. If I panicked at that point, at that depth, it's simple. You end up drowning. It's over. End of story.
In such moments, life flirts with death. Julien puts on his emergency bottles. The shark has gone. Julien seems to be handling the situation. But what about his injuries? He still has to undergo 2.5 hours of decompression. Returning to the surface would be fatal.
I can see Julien's bleeding. There's a big cloud of diluted blood around his head, coming out of his hood. I realize that he's been injured and that he's bleeding quite profusely.
I had to not bleed out in the water. If I lost too much blood, I maybe wouldn't be able to complete the decompression. So I've got two problems. I'm injured and I've got blood loss. So it's tricky.
Pass on the info so they can prepare what they need to patch him up, because it's possible his head is going to need some stitches.
If it's a deep cut, can he stay 2 hours in the water?
He doesn't have any choice. He has to stay down there.
He won't bleed to death?
The crew rally around Julien. They're all worried he may pass out before he makes the surface.
Julien is in shock. And even if he tells us everything's fine and that he's handling it, he doesn't look his usual self.
Il n'a pas le même regard que d'habitude.
The stop is interminable. Ghislain remains vigilant. Every minute that goes by reassures Julien, and the bleeding seems to have stopped.
I still can't quite step back to realize just how much worse it could have been. I'm just relieved to have come through it.
Okay, come on.
I'm fine, I'm fine.
Where exactly does it hurt?
I took a blow here and one here.
Yes, there are some marks on your right.
I can feel I've got a couple of cuts there.
Does that hurt?
No, it's fine.
Did you feel there was any violent compression of the skull?
No. I felt I was held, but not at all compressed. He was too small to get hold of my whole head. I had a vision like in some B-movie where the shark comes along and opens its jaws and then it all goes black. It was like that, because I ducked my head, I saw its gaping mouth. I thought, damn. And then it thrashed around for a couple of seconds, and then it had hold of me. I thought, this damn thing is actually trying to eat my head.
A dozen stitches and the incident is over, at least on the physical level. The consequences for the crew are more profound. That evening, they gather to watch the footage to review what happened, each diver having had a partial view of events. The shark is swimming in an intimidation pattern, exhibiting territorial behavior, but the way it is swimming is so slow that it's unusual. The divers didn't know how to interpret it.
Oh la vache, putain, les gars. Putain.
It goes straight for the head and it's on target.
You can't even see that I tried to fend it off, but it didn't work at all.
Wow, il est barre.
On n'avait pas mesuré, je pense.
I don't think we'd fully appreciated how far these deep dives were going to take us into wild territory.
On allait évoluer dans un monde sauvage.
And end up bringing us face to face with some behaviors very different to those you might imagine.
Des comportements qui sont très différents de ce qu'on peut imaginer.
That has unsettled the crew a little bit.
At these depths, sharks are not used to encountering humans, as they might in the shallower channels and lagoons. What's more, diving with a rebreather means the diver does not release that long column of bubbles familiar in dives using bottles, which give the diver a greater stature, impressing other marine creatures. But the accident does not halt the program. The study of the crepuscular corals continues, but no one is left unscathed by the attack. They all react in their own way, dealing with their anxieties.
I wasn't very comfortable down there. I really wasn't at ease.
Perhaps it'll help you get over it.
It's the fact that it was a sort of lair. A sort of lair. A bit like the last time. Weirdly, it wasn't underwater that was most stressful. It's more before, when you imagine all kinds of things, you picture scenarios, you relive the accident, you relive like it's happening. You relive it in the first person, wondering, what would I have done? How would I have gotten through that? Because I don't have as much experience as Julien. I'm not as calm as he is. Maybe I wouldn't be as lucky as him when the shark struck here and not lower down on the throat, for example. You start reliving an accident in the first person, and it's really anxiety-inducing.
Ever since that day, I find it hard to relax when I dive. There's a before and an after. Because there's that moment when I thought we were going to lose someone. And there was that hour and a half of decompression when I reran the images in my head. I thought about the children, Ghislain and me, and I asked myself a lot of questions.